Hey, know how Steppin with Marcus J. Thank you so much for staying with us as we got through that break. You're having a spirited conversation. I won't share with y'all just yet what they was kind of fussing about in the break, but it's a very good bet that we might actually do a whole segment on their fussage next week. Ain't no how Steppin.
I mean, you know, I can tell you what I was fussing about.
Well, we don't need to talk about it.
Not that one.
We don't need to talk about it. We going.
You know what?
You like to fuss though.
But nah, man. The way it came up is because
I want to talk about that actual subject.
We're not gonna talk about the actual subject.
Okay, cool.
The way it came up is I'm looking on the internet at Complex's top best TV shows of 2013, and
Complex.
Okay.
I mean, what? You got something against Complex now?
I don't know what Complex is, but move on.
I mean,
move on.
Exactly, because you don't be paying attention. So, you know, I'm looking at it, and the show that you spoke about was number 17. Or the show we didn't speak out was number 17. However, Love and Hip Hop Atlanta was number 9. Number 7. And I was like, first of all.
You drew me into a love and hip hop conversation. That's where you get me to check out. I just check out.
I mean, first of all, I'm not drawing you into a conversation. I'm just advising you of how this conversation started, because I couldn't believe that this Love and Hip Hop crap was higher than that other show we were speaking of. Actually, number 7 out of 36. First of all, I can name you 25 shows.
And those are the watchers.
I mean,
that you want to worry about who's going to represent the world?
Leading us.
Yeah, I don't think so, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's just, to me, it was crazy.
I'm officially parking myself in the I don't give a damn category.
I mean, I know you are. You always do that.
He's in the parking lot.
Yeah, because
that
show,
that's what I get.
Loving hip hop and Basketball Wives and all of that kind of stuff, that is the scourge of the earth, if you ask me. And I am an official hypocrite because I used to watch Flavor of Love. But then I realized that this was terrible.
Where'd you realize that? Third season?
Well, I realized that it was terrible. I realized that it was terrible, and I stopped watching it because of the images that you see. Like, seriously, you got 20 girls that's trying to holler at Flavor Flav, and
like
anybody who's looking at that doesn't think it's scripted, you really need to have your head examined. And then Love and Hip Hop, and then, you know, Basketball Wives and all that kind of stuff. I actually saw a trailer for a TV show called Paternity Test or some show, you know, that comes on television, and then you got Maury and all of that kind of stuff. It's just, you know, again, for me, everything has a social component to it. And so that other show that we were talking about, that also has a social component. But the way I justify it in my mind is one of them is marketed to you as reality. So even though you know as an intelligent person that is scripted, when they market it to you as reality, that's where it's different, because you're watching it, and if you convince yourself that it's the reality that they telling you it is, I am to believe that these beautiful, beautiful, smart, brilliant sisters is cussing each other out, throwing chairs at each other, and completely losing their mind. And I have a hard time with that.
Okay.
I do.
Personally, I can see that being the case. Look, you take a girl from the hood and you give her money, she's still hood.
Or some alcohol.
Then she
Alcohol?
hooded it in.
Alcohol.
She hooded it in. So, I mean, look, it's scripted reality is what it is, but it shows the worst of us. And I don't appreciate that, especially for young girls growing up nowadays. They think this is the way you need to be.
I mean, it's real that on the real world stuff, they literally give those cats alcohol. And they give them this thing full of alcohol, no joke, and they wild out. And they record it. You know,
what's wrong with
and then they wake up next morning and realize they had done some dumb stuff.
Right.
But you know what, they paid and stuff like that. So, but for realistically, you know, I understand what Mark is saying. I just don't agree, because to me, all of it's the same.
Okay, well, fair enough. Let's move on, because I didn't plan for this section of the conversation.
Just because you ain't playing for
we got some stuff we need to get to. And I Steppin with Marcus J.
We always go over.
At this time, we've got to profile a missing and/or exploited child. This week is no different. We've got Victoria Williams. She's been missing since October 19, 2013. She's missing from Newark, New Jersey. Her date of birth is November 15th, 1999. She's 14-year-old black female with brown hair and brown eyes. She's 5'6" and weighs 133 pounds. The photos on the site that I'm going to upload here both show her. She may still be in the local area. She was last seen with blonde extensions in her hair. If you have seen Victoria Williams, Please contact the National Center for Missing and or Exploited Children on their website, missingkids.com, or contact them by phone at 1-800-THE-LOST, 1-800-843-5678, or contact your local authorities. Ain't no how stepping with Marcus J. Ruben, I cut you off. You seem like you're feeling some kind of way. I'll give you the final word on your little punk ass TV shows. If you want to have the final word on the little punk ass TV shows, you can have it, or we can talk about some real stuff.
I don't really like your condescending attitude. You can go ahead and move on.
Okay, well, I mean, that's just how I am. I'm a condescending son of a gun. That's what we do. Ain't no how step with Marcus J. All right, Tedra, I want you on this one first. SY, please tell the world where I'm getting this story from.
Oh, that's easy, darling. The Huffington Post.
The Huffington Post. All right. There have been some. Well, first of all, the segment is called "What the Hell," when we go through stories that make you say, "What the hell? What the hell?" And Americans are now wanting Congress members to pee in a cup to prove that they are not on drugs. And it's a trip because there's been polls. 62% say they strongly favor drug testing for congressional law members, compared to 51% who said the same of welfare recipients. The House of Representatives recently passed legislation that would allow states to require food stamp recipients to pee in cups to prove they're not on drugs. In 2012, Republicans pushed for drug testing of people seeking unemployment insurance benefits when they lose their jobs at the state level. GOP law members across the country have sought drug testing for an array of safety net programs. Translation: GOP is okay with testing people who are potentially going to receive benefits, but they have issues with testing the people who are going to give the benefits, i.e. Congress, whereas the people are with it. So what's your thoughts on that? Do you think that we should be testing for drugs, the members of Congress and the Senate?
Yes. Have you watched them vote lately? Something ain't right in Washington. I'm just saying. I mean, the conservative part of me says yes for that, as well as welfare recipients. Look, there's a way to game every system. If you are holding an office, you need to be up on the up and up. We know that's not the case, but I feel like we should hold them to a higher standard.
Ruben, what do you think about that?
I mean, why would you inflict yourself on the same punishment that you inflict on the slaves? That's stupid.
Help me.
I mean, look at. I mean, you see what I'm saying? I mean, why would you eat outside? Why would you eat the food that you give to slaves? You wouldn't do that. Back in the day, they wouldn't do that. I mean, it's just like the people on top. Congress technically is, oh, we're better than y'all. We good. Why we need to be tested? I mean, why should we inflict ourselves on the same punishment that we inflict on people under us? That's not the way it works. Of course not. Of course they say they don't want that. That just makes sense. I mean, it's stupid, but that's just real.
That's why we think about that.
I agree with Ruben. Why would they? And for some reason, if it did pass, if they were to do that, who's gonna?
Well, didn't we just have a congressman? Didn't we just recently have a congressman who got busted for drugs, and he ended up getting, he took some time off to go to rehab, and he'll be back here soon.
See, can you imagine?
I can't remember the guy's name, but
yeah, I mean, there was a guy in Canada too who got caught smoking crack on
the
camera.
mayor.
I mean,
the Toronto
exactly.
mayor.
So,
Rob
time,
Ford.
quote unquote, time off to go to drug rehab.
The place will be empty.
Well, here's my thought on it. I mean, I look at it like this, and I'm getting this quote directly from my sister Sue. She actually said this, and so I'm going to piggyback on her comments. She mentioned this in social media. If I got to take a piss test to get my job, then why the hell don't they have to take a piss test to get their job?
Bingo, baby.
That's what I was gonna say. All other government employees have to take drug tests. You're in the military, you get random drug tests. Why would they not be subject to the same standards? But when
you're the king, why subject yourself to the service?
But
you're a government
level.
That's the level that they're on.
Yeah.
That's the mentality that they're on. I wouldn't say that's the level.
Right.
If you're saying that's the level they're on, I'm gonna disagree with you. But if you're saying that that's their mentality, then I will agree with you. I mean, clarify, because I'm not sure if there's sarcasm there, if you're being honest. I mean,
being
what do we?
sarcastic.
I'm
He's
not
being
sure.
sarcastic.
Well, I hope he is, but I'm not sure.
Because I said the same thing, and I'm
Well,
being
hold on, hear me out. You have elected officials, yes. Okay. However, most of the elected officials are in locations where are completely one-sided and they're poor, and that's all they do. So the reason why they were able to shut down the government is because a large portion of the Republicans were part of the Tea Party, and they're in areas where they would vote Republican anyway, such as I hate to call people out, such as Kentucky. You know, there are a lot of Republicans in that place where all those poor people are, and they don't vote Democrat, they vote Republican because they have been convinced that Republican is the way to go, even though the Republicans, to be perfectly honest with you, their ideals go against how they live.
I agree with you there.
I'm still not sure I follow what
Right.
your actual point is, though. I mean, do you think that these people should be drug tested or not?
Yes.
They should be drug
Okay.
tested, but these are the same people who can't lose their pay if we get shut down.
I understand that you're saying that these are the same people who would have to vote, that would have to vote for or against it happening. I understand that you're saying that, but I need to know if you think they should be or not. Yes or no?
I think, yeah. Of
Okay,
course I
cool.
think
That's
it
the
should be.
point that you're
But-
not.
But the realism
articulating
is that that's not going to happen.
Okay,
Well,
that,
we know that.
we understand that, but you weren't making the point whether you think they should be or not. And that's what I was
I got
trying to.
that.
That's what I was trying to
You
get.
said.
Thank you. That's why.
Cool. Ain't no hashtag
Yeah.
on Marcus yet. All right, here's another one that will kind of make you say, "What the hell?" Because we've talked about this a little bit in the past. I'm getting this one from rollingout.com, which is a political website. Ruben, I want you in on this one first. Sometimes I like to just read the byline because the byline will give you all of the what the hell you need. This is the byline that I see. Private prisons are suing states for millions if they don't stay full. Let that one marinate on your brain for a second. You got private prison industrial complexes so out of control that they have the audacity to order states to keep the beds full or face their wrath with stiff financial penalties. And this is according to reports. Private prisons in some states have language in their contracts that state if they fall below a certain percentage of capacity that the states must pay the private prisons billions of dollars lest they face a lawsuit for millions more. And guess what? The private prisons, which are holding cash-starved states hostage, are getting away with it, says advocacy group In the Public Interest. In the Public Interest has reviewed more than 60 contracts between private prison companies and state and local governments across the country and found that language mentioning, quote, quotas, end quote, for prisoners in nearly 2/3 of those contracts reviewed. Those quotas can range from a mandatory occupancy of, for example, 70% occupancy in California to up to 100% in some prisons in Arizona. I want you in on this one first, my brother. You got private prisons that are going to sue the states for not keeping the private prisons full. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, that makes sense because for some reason, some idiot in the state legislature decided, hey, we need a new prison. And if you need a new prison, if you're going to build all this stuff, then prisons make money. It's a
business.
It's a business. So if you can't put enough people in there to get the government subsidy so you can make the money, then you take an L. And if you got to pay for it, nah, that ain't happening. It ain't that kind of party. So, yeah, you signed a contract saying, hey, we'll make sure that your prison has X percent occupancy. The problem is that people have gotten smart and there ain't enough crime going around, for those prisons, or they're dying or whatever. So it's just one of those things where the state backfired on itself. Because the state didn't pay for it to be built. Somebody else did. And that's why it's a business. And
Let me clarify for you. It's an outsourcing.
Yeah.
They said, okay, we can't maintain the county, the state, the city prison, so we're going to outsource this to these private prisons. Well, those private prisons get grants for education. Those private prisons get grants for food, for reform, for these drug rehabilitation programs. So they're losing this money if they don't have so many people to be part of these programs. What's happening is these cash-strapped states are cash-strapped all the way down to the police department where they're not able to arrest as many people as they were previously. So the prisons aren't staying as full to capacity as they needed to be. So do I think it's fair? Yeah, you shouldn't have signed the contract. When you outsource, know what you're doing.
That's why we think.
Well, maybe I don't know too much about it, but I hear a lot of complaints that our prisons are overcrowded. So why is that? If these
In some
prisons are
states.
so empty.
And some states are not overcrowded. Like Utah, they ain't got a lot of people there. And especially a lot of black people. They ain't got no black people there.
Well, I'm thinking that if we
I'm just being
go
real.
ahead and start testing Congress, we can fill them up real quick.
I guess one thing that well, Tony, you want to get in before I kind of say what I'm going to say?
Only in America. This is just foolishness.
Tomfoolery.
I mean,
Haberdashery. It's really sad. Just the root of prisons are not full enough, so we're going to sue you because there aren't enough people in the prison. Just that concept to me is unfathomable. Like, who agreed to do something like that?
Because they thought they can get people in jail and put them in the prison.
I'm aware of that, but my thing is, how about you put things in place so that people don't go to prison?
Don't go.
How about that?
That's not how the world works, man.
That's how America works.
You get them to me.
Here's my thought on it. I mean, I keep coming back to the Philadelphia story that we did a few months ago when they were closing schools. And the money that they saved to close the schools went directly to the building of prisons. And the schools that they closed in Philadelphia were all in the inner cities. And so when you think about it like that, you also had in Pennsylvania, you had the judge who was convicted of literally selling kids to the jails. He was convicted and sentenced to 28 years in prison because he was selling kids to these jails. And so when you think about it like that, the outrage that we should be feeling because of the audacity for these people, not so much the private prisons, but for the government elected officials to agree to those terms and sign those terms. Because we know that if you sign a contract, the way that the courts work, you got to honor the contract. So even if you got a jacked up contract, then so be it. But, who was that person that said, you know what, this is a good deal for us? You know who that was? It was the same people who have the testing in the schools, testing little boys in the 3rd grade at 9 years old, and the kids who score low on those tests, that's how they determine how many kids are going to be in prison in 9 years when they're 18. This is what they're doing. And so when I think about that, it kind of blows my mind, but then it doesn't, because Warren Ballantyne always says that it's not a conspiracy, it's a plan, and it's true. These people ain't playing, y'all. And when you think about the 15th Amendment, stating that slavery is only abolished if you ain't did nothing wrong. Translation: if your ass go to jail, you get to be good old slave again. Yeah.
Yes, master.
Yeah, you go to prison and you make $1 a day. You know what? I mean, this is what they do. And so when you also think about all of the products, the everyday products that you use, if you did your homework and you did your research, it would blow your mind the stuff that's in this room right now that came from a private prison. That's where those contracts come from. That's why those contracts are written the way they're written, because they have these people who are in prison. Oftentimes, they could be similar to one of the guys that we're going to talk about in a story that's coming up here. This story is going to blow your mind as well. They're in prison for long periods of time for doing next to nothing. And you also have jacked up laws written by people like the first black president, your favorite Bill Clinton, the one that everybody loves so much, the one that signed the bill that says if you got a little itty bitty tiny bit of crack, you get to go to jail until forever. But if you got powdered cocaine, you get to go to Martha Stewart jail. You know what I mean? So let's understand here that we can be cynical about the fact that these laws were signed, these contracts were signed, but let's not deal with the symptoms. Let's deal with the actual problem. How Steppin with Marcus Jan. I mentioned that we're gonna get to that problem that story where someone went to jail. I'm going to come to that in a minute. Tedra, I want you on this one first. I'm getting this one from the New York Times. You got an unarmed man who was charged with wounding bystanders when the police was shooting at him, missed, and shot them. So they charged him because apparently based on, they charged him. He was emotionally disturbed. Police was shooting at him. You know, he's lurching in and around traffic in Times Square. This is back in September. They charged him with assault on the theory that he was responsible for the bullet wounds suffered by 2 bystanders. And this was according to an indictment. Now, the man was Glenn Broadnax. He's 35 years old. He's from Brooklyn. This was on September 14th. He's waiting in and out of traffic at 42nd and 8th Avenue, throwing himself into the path of cars. Of course, bystanders start coming around. Police officers tried to get him to stop acting a damn fool, 250-pound man, so they're a little bit nervous that he might bust that ass. And so when they reached, when he reached into his pants pocket, a couple of officers pulled out their gun, opened fire. They missed him, but they hit 2 women nearby. Finally, a police sergeant knocked him down with a taser. They knocked him down with a taser, which they probably should have used in the first place.
Right.
But when they see us wilding out, they don't think about using their tasers.
No, it's directly
lethal force. Send a mass, and we'll have people who will think that that's okay, and I'll be happy to debate with them. But anyway, he was initially arrested on a misdemeanor charge of menacing, drug possession, and resisting arrest, which I absolutely have no problem with because he was menacing, acting a damn fool. He was probably on drugs, so that would speak to the drug possession. And resisting arrest, if you're running from the cops, you're resisting. Yeah, all that makes sense. That's why, right? Yeah, that makes sense. But the Manhattan District Attorney's Office persuaded the grand jury to charge him with assault, which is a felony carrying a maximum sentence of 25 years. Specifically, the 9-count indictment unsealed on Wednesday said Mr. Broadnax, quote, recklessly engaged in conduct which created a grave risk of death.
He needs a good lawyer. That's ridiculous.
So
you hear me? Ridiculous.
Let's talk about it. It's ridiculous.
It's stupid. Okay, you're supposed to stand still when a cop's getting ready to shoot at you.
Thank you.
And if you move and the bullet hits an innocent bystander, then you're going to get charged with a bullet. That's like telling people who used to get killed by firing squad, your family has to pay for those bullets. When you die.
Well,
they used to.
But they used to do that,
Exactly. I know. That's stupid. Okay, I'm going to make you pay for the death of your loved one. It's ridiculous. Yeah, you did it.
That's why. What do you think?
I'm ticked off because, one, just like you say, I'm going to shoot you. I need you to stand still. Okay? Now, we all know what that area looks like. There are people shoulder to freaking shoulder. Why in God's green earth are you firing your freaking weapon? I'm not going to stand still if you're trying to shoot me, whether I'm on something or not. But you're going to fire your gun when there are just, in I view, at least a good 50 people. Why would you do that? Yes, the taser would have been a bright idea, genius, the first time around. Oh my freaking God!
Tony,
you know what?
What do you think
the
about
job
this,
is
Tony?
to eliminate us. I tell you.
These police officers, it's like anybody can get a gun and a badge, and I don't think that. It is. You just said that they're trying to eliminate us. It's not. They're not like that with everybody, and it's basically aimed at us, but. These police officers are really getting out of control, and the justice system is ducking and dodging, finding these loopholes or creating loopholes to try to protect them. And it's absolutely, it's just so unfair to see it happen. And again, they're gonna protect one another. Their captain or sergeant, lieutenant, whomever is going to, they're gonna write up whatever they need to write up. They're gonna produce whatever witnesses. They're going to find a way to put this person away. And like Tedra said, he needs a good attorney. But either way, I don't think that he's gonna be successful.
Ruben, what do you think about this, man?
I wish that I was an attorney in New York right now because I would make my name on this. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens because I don't think he's going to get a public defender. I think he's going to get somebody who wants to make their name because clearly this is stupid. I mean, the cops were clearly in the wrong. Now, he's going to get his on the stuff that he did.
Right.
But last time I checked, dodging a bullet is not against the law. And I am pretty sure that I don't care how crazy you are or how many drugs you own, if you see somebody about to shoot you, you're going to turn to black lightning and move out the way. I mean, you know.
Like, mother, may I?
I mean, real talk, it's about to be the Matrix up in this piece. I mean, yeah, that dude's going to mess around. He's going to mess around and walk out for free because they're going to, first of all, make them look stupid if he gets somebody other than a public defender. And even real talk, if I'm a public defender and I want to make my name and go to a real law firm, it may just happen.
That's it right there. Yep,
I mean, now, but as far as him, yeah, he messed up. He's going to jail. But I think the charges of him, moving out of the way of a bullet so somebody else gets hurt, whatever the official charge is on that, I'm pretty sure it should be dropped without question. And you know what? I'm waiting to see. I am very curious to see what judge even allows that to happen.
It has to happen with Marcus J. Continuing on, I'm going to tie this together here in a minute, but I got another story. I'm getting this one from TakePart.com. This one is about a 24-year-old man. 24-year-old man. He got life in prison. For mailing LSD to a friend. Okay, he's a deadhead. He's a little out there. But Timothy Tyler, he sent 5 grams of LSD to a friend. Little did he know that he was setting himself up to die behind bars. Now he's a vegan who follows the Grateful Dead. Come on, y'all. He's selling fried dough at concerts. This dude's a little off, but. 1994, he was sentenced to life in prison. He was 24 years old, and he's one of 110 examples cited in the American Civil Liberties Union report of nonviolent offenders spending life in prison, most of whom are serving time for drug offenses. And of 646 sentences reviewed by the ACLU, 83% had been in prison without parole for nonviolent crimes. A bipartisan tide is rising against life without parole, particularly those sentences handed down as a result of laws requiring such judgments, regardless of the crime severity. That's why I want you on this one first. I'm going to tie Timothy together with the other fella here in a minute. What's your thoughts on Timothy getting 24 years in 1994? He got life at age 24 in 1994.
I just have one question.
5 grams.
Is this drug trafficking?
It is.
If anybody has ever seen the movie that The Rock did recently, I can't remember the name of it, but Snitch. Yeah. Dwayne The Rock Johnson person.
Jones.
Him. He did the movie where he was a father whose son had basically he got framed by another kid for doing something very similar to what Timothy Tyler.
What's the penalty for drug trafficking?
Well, I ain't no lawyer, so I can't really speak to that. But what I can speak to is common sense. And common sense tells me that 24 years old and you get life in prison for mailing 5 grams. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know the laws. I don't know the rules. I don't know the amount. It was just stupid altogether for him to do. Like you said, he's not a little off. He's definitely off. And I wonder if he did it before, the poor soul, and managed to get away with it and thought that it was okay to continue it. Now, who caught the idiot, how they caught him doing it, I don't know. I don't know if I don't know about his sentence being a freaking life, but he's gonna have a problem. He's got a problem. He's got a problem.
What you think about this, Tony?
Now, usually I'm one who says that you can't do the time, don't do the crime. I do think a life sentence is a lot. Yeah. It's a whole lot for mailing drugs. But really, what is fair? I mean, what is fair?
What kind of envelope was it?
You know what? No, I'm serious. Like people say, well, life sentence is too long. What's a fair amount of time for somebody selling drugs and, like you said, or trafficking? Was that the first time?
Oh, I wonder.
Who knows? Who knows? I mean, to me, you take on that risk. You take on that risk of I could potentially spend the rest of my life in prison if I do this.
But look,
you shouldn't have done it.
Look at it this way. We know that you can do far worse than mail 5 grams of LSD and get country club jail or not even go to jail at all. And so when we're looking at the differences between one sentence and another, I know some folks that say you can't compare apples and oranges. I understand that. But I have a hard time with a nonviolent felon that does something like this. And I mean, we're not talking about Bernie Madoff, who bilked millions of dollars out of old people. You're not talking about something like that. We're talking about 5 grams of freaking LSD. Like, seriously? And he gets life in prison? Life in prison. It don't matter how old he is. He's 24, but it don't matter how old. He go to jail for the rest of his life, forever. Throw away the key forever. I'm sure they got him on drug possession, and then they got him with mailing it, and there's some issues with the postal service. So I'm sure that it was the cumulative time. All of that stuff kind of got thrown in. I didn't study the case enough to know specifically where all the time came from. But let's just think about this logically, y'all, for a second. Like,
25 years? All
right, well, here's how I'm going to tie. Here's why, because, I mean, you seem to be in agreement with the term. Let me just tie it together for you. The reason why I brought this story up, and the reason why I think it's some bullshit that this dude went to jail forever at 24 years old, 20 years ago, is when we do a story about private prisons that want to sue the states for not having them at capacity, because it's all about them making their money. When you see that they want to charge an unarmed man for assault because the police shot at him and missed and hit somebody else, and they figured there was an opportunity to put somebody in a potential private prison, this is where we're going here. We're going to a place where slavery once again is real. It don't matter if Tyler is white or black, because the reality is, you know, if you are a poor person, then you get to be plain old black for real. You get to be black circa 1860 if you poor. Mm-hmm. If you black and you rich, hey, you black, but you know what, you rich. You know what I mean? But if you white and you poor, then you get to you get to be black. And so let's think about it like that. Like everything, I want to kind of look at it a little bit more closer than what is actually on the surface. Tedra, tell me what's your thoughts here.
I mean, I agree with you there. It's all about the sentencing guidelines and who they focus their sentencing guidelines on. If you look at the majority of folks that are in prison, it's for nonviolent crimes, and they're in there for longer periods of time than those sometimes with violent crimes. Mm-hmm. To me, it should be more about whether or not this person is rehabilitatable on how long they're, kept into prison. I mean, as a former criminal justice major, which I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't. I'm too little to be a prison guard. It's not gonna work for me. They'll be selling me for cigarettes. A lot of the laws that are out there, and whether or not people are paying attention to it or not, are designated to focus on the poor, the disenfranchised. We catch it. The majority of people in prison are black men. Now it's starting to turn the tide, and the majority of the women in prison are black.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that it's a coincidence when you look at, 12, 13, depending on what census you look at of the population, but over 50% of the prison population is us. And that, I have a hard time believing that we're that bad, when I've also looked at the FBI statistics and show that, crime across demographics is pretty damn even. Mm-hmm. White folk wild out just as much as we do. Mm-hmm. But it seems like we go to jail in a larger capacity, largely because we're more poor than they are. And so when you say again now,
we tell Pookie.
Yeah, we snitch. But we're more poor than they are. And when you look at those same demographics and you look at certain neighborhoods and you look at poor white neighborhoods, you'll see that when they act a damn fool, they go to jail. It's about It's about your demographic. It's about your economics. Big Rube, tell me what's your thoughts on this, man. You're talking about TT is what SY has rechristened.
Those are his initials.
She has rechristened Timothy Tyler to TT. 5 grams of LSD. He mailed it. 1994. He goes to jail for the rest of his life. 1994. At age 24, he is sentenced to life in prison with no parole. How you feel about that?
A famous man says, "Stupid is as stupid does." I have no heart for this. You break the law, you pay. It's that simple. If you mail 1 gram of LSD, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, well, they should only go to jail for 5 years because they did. Nah, man, you broke the law. You did something really stupid, and you're right. It's probably a whole bunch of trumped up charges, and he's in jail for life. Big deal. He did something stupid, and yes, I do feel that the balance of, hey, I can shoot you, be in jail for 15 years. I send some drugs in me, I'll be in there for life. Yeah, that's kind of stupid. It should all be on one simple accord somehow. You know what? You want to fill up the jails? Get all the stupid people off the street. Let's just be honest about it. You can sit here and you can sit here and we can sit here and talk. Well, they go after the black people, they go after the Cuban people, whatever. But when it's all said and done, people make a conscious decision to do something stupid. And I'm sick of paying for stupid people. So if you're gonna sit here and do something stupid, if you get a life in prison, that's your dumb ass fault.
Well, when you sit here and say that you're sick and tired of paying for stupid people, but you do realize that it costs more money to keep Tyler in jail for 24 years for something so minuscule in the grand scheme of crime. You're paying to keep him in prison.
I understand that, and for me, I can't speak for anybody else in this room or anybody else in my life. For me, if you're gonna go to jail over a certain amount of time, you might as well go ahead and go firing squad, dog. 100 years in jail for what? Man, I'm done. You're not getting out. Big deal, you're done. Oh, we're going to put you in jail for 200 years. You're not going to last that long. Mandela lasted 95. You ain't got a shot, dog. Let's just be honest about it. I'm personally sick of the fact that we give little, okay, Johnny, it's okay. I'll give you a slap on the hand. Nah, man, if you do something stupid, you do, like you said, somebody said, you do the crime, you do the time. I am not one of those guys who are just like, well, I don't think that because he did this, that he should get that, but this other person did this and they did that. Yeah, I understand it's not equal. But if you're stupid enough to break the law in a stupid fashion, then that's your fault. That's your dumb ass fault.
I can dig it. Ain't no ass step on Marcus J. Hakeem, thanks for coming back to us, brother. We haven't heard from you in a while. Hakeem is listening to us. He says that more than half of U.S. prison inmates are white, which, I guess we can look and see the demographics, but the reality is if they are 60% of the population, then it should be most of them in jail. But
there are more people white people on welfare than black people.
Well, that's an absolute fact, but there's certain sections of the public that would try to make black people and minorities the face of, those types of programs, which is a way of having, poor white folks afraid of supporting certain people because the face of welfare and food stamps and things of that sort of black people. But that's a conversation for another day. Ain't no Steppin Marcus. Yeah, all right, this one. You sometimes you see something that's really sad, and you make the face, you smile, but because it ain't funny. You ever have to laugh when something ain't funny, but you don't have no other emotion to really apply to it, and that's what we're going to talk about here on the dailymail.co.uk. This is a family who is in shock as the wrong body is displayed at the funeral for a retired Army colonel. And then he is buried in the wrong grave. They're mourning the death of a loved one, and when they found this out, it was crazy. Jim McClain and his family arrived at Everly Funeral Home in Fairfax, Virginia, quickly realized the man in the casket was not McClain's father, Joseph Malchapman, who had died November 21st at the age of 80 years old. Making matters worse for the grieving family, the funeral home had already buried Joseph Chapman in a plot in Winchester instead of next to his beloved wife, Carolyn, who predeceased him in 2006 at Arlington National Cemetery. Of course, a distraught McLaren immediately alerted staff at the home to the mix-up, but says he was dismissed by the Everly staff, who told him that the mix-up was impossible. Although they were convinced that the man was not Chapman, having his identical twin, Alvin Chapman, present at the viewing, showed that the man in the casket looked nothing like Joseph Chapman. Quote, I kept looking at him, and I was like, there's no way he could have changed this much. This is what the Sun said. The man in the coffin had extreme receding hairline as opposed to Chapman's head of white hair and completely different nose. But McLaren alerted Everly staff to the mistake, and he was dismissed by a funeral home who told him that the mix-up was in fact impossible. So tell me, Tony, what's your thoughts on the fact that this funeral home completely blew it here on this one?
So how did that conversation go? Like, that's not
That
him.
is him, ma'am.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. That is him. Look at the picture.
No, it's
That is
not.
him. Ma'am, that's him.
No, this is his twin.
No, he looks nothing like him. This is him right here, ma'am. I
it's-
know you're distraught, ma'am, but this is him.
No, it's not.
Yeah, ma'am, it's him.
No, it's not.
You're wrong, ma'am. It's him.
No, it's not. How? What in the world?
But you know what's funny how y'all staged that? That has to be how that conversation is. Is there any other way? Yeah, there's no other way that conversation goes.
I mean, I'd be beating your butt if you're going to tell me who's who.
I mean, I don't want to be insensitive here, but for the point, for me to be able to completely, fully make my point, I may have to dip into the insensitive here for a minute. For real, y'all, you gonna tell me that ain't my deceased parent? You gonna tell me that that's my daddy or that's my mama? I mean, for real? Seriously?
You're distraught. You don't know what
I don't know
You're
what.
emotional.
But you know what? My daddy had a full head of white hair.
You
This
crying.
dude bald, man.
You crying and you got on your tinted glasses.
Is that
you
what it
can't
is?
see?
Like, for real? Now, seriously,
You need to get some
I
glasses.
mean, you know,
That's just cruel.
I don't, it's like I'm not often speechless here.
That is horrible.
I'm not often speechless. That's the reason why y'all gonna fry me up like a McNugget. I ain't going in the ground.
You know, it's not
But I'm
funny.
just, huh?
It's really not funny. The
It's
only thing that was
not.
funny was the conversation. Because how are you going to tell me
Yeah,
that
that's awful.
that's who
awful.
it isn't?
Yeah, Hakeem is still listening to it. He said, "What a coincidence! Because white folk do make up 60% of the prison population. However, he's enjoying us. He said we crazy being here tripping right now. And that's, you know how we do, Hakeem. I'm glad you back, my brother. But Ruben, they looking at you go to the funeral home. All right, let's not even make it your parent. Let's say it's me, which it won't be because they're going to fry me like a McNugget. But let's say it is me, and I'm in a casket, and then you looking at me, you're like, that's my homie right there. You know what I mean? And they like, nah, that ain't him. You like, no, seriously, that's not him. They're like, yo, that's him. And you like, no. I mean, how would you handle that, Ruben?
How would I handle it?
Yeah, man.
Well, after the second time they tell me that's not you.
That is me. They're telling me that is. You're saying
excuse
it's not
me,
him.
yeah. The second time I tell you that that's not him, and you tell me for a third time that that's him, then unfortunately there will be some four little words being tossed around.
And a
And
human being tossed around.
I'm not a physical. I'm not going to beat him up. I might turn to my father for a minute and be like, "You got 5 minutes to find bleep 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 Marcus Johnson, or I'm gonna bleep 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 bleep." Do you understand? What the bleep I'm talking about? Yeah. I mean,
I likes your daddy.
because first of all, Big Rube don't get mad at stuff. However, when Big Rube does get mad, then people realize how big Big Rube really is, and then it's a bad day for somebody. So I really hope that guy is not tiny, because he is gonna find out that he really got bleep bleep time
Is that the
to
uncle?
get my bleep bleep friend back, or I'm gonna bleep bleep his bleep.
Ain't no half stepping.
Jeffrey Holder in the building?
Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Hey, listen, we getting a tweet from Steel Neil 1. Steel Neil, thanks for listening, True Fighter. I appreciate the support, my brother. Still Neil is saying he's going back to the previous segment where we talked about if you don't keep the equality in sentencing, we will see black folk going to jail for things as small as jaywalking. Which I certainly, I'm assuming based on that comment, they're agreeing somewhat with you, Ruben, with regards to keeping the sentencing a certain kind of way and fairly for everyone. And so that's the comment. Ain't no how Steppin Marcus J. Last story I want to get into, and what the hell, before we move on to the round table with Big Robe. I'm getting this story from
the Huffington Post,
the
darling.
Huffington Post. All right, this one, I got this story from K-Dub. K-Dub sent this story to me last week, and unfortunately we weren't able to get into it because we ran out of time for last week's show. So I wanted to save it for this week. You got teens arrested for waiting for the bus. That's the byline. Now, of course, you need more than that, Tedra, so I'm going to set it up for you. I want your comment on this one first. 3 high school students in Rochester, New York were arrested while they waited for the bus. Authorities claim the trio was obstructing the flow of other pedestrians on the sidewalk. Ralik Red, Watajas Weathers, and Daquan Carluck, all between 16 and 17 years of age, said that they were cuffed before they could board a school bus to a basketball game. Quote, "We tried to tell them that we were waiting for the bus. This is what Weathers told the station. We weren't catching a city bus. We were catching a yellow bus. He didn't care. He arrested us anyway." The Rochester police did not immediately return a call to the Huffington Post, but the police report indicates that the teens who attend Edison Tech were obstructing, quote, pedestrian traffic while standing on a public sidewalk, preventing free passage of citizens walking by and attempting to enter and exit a store. The report also states the officer who arrested the teens, quote, made clear and concise orders for the group to disperse and leave the area without compliance, end quote. The teens were apprehended in part of a downtown Rochester where business owners have complained about teens loitering and fighting near their stores. The boys' coach, Jacob Scott, unsuccessfully tried to convince the officers to let the players off the hook. He said the officer told him, quote, "If you don't disperse, we're going to book you as well." He responded by saying, quote, "Sir, I'm an adult. I'm their varsity basketball coach. How can you book me? What am I doing wrong? Matter of fact, what are these guys doing wrong?" Of course, they were arrested and they are facing disorderly conduct charges according to the Rochester police report that had been obtained by the Huffington Post. So, Tedra, I want you on this one first. This is one of those stories where we do like to say, what the hell? 804-402-2893 is the number to dial if you want to get in. Continue to hit us in social media on our Facebook pages. Feel free to tweet us. Anybody that you know that we're here, that you're listening to. If you want to inbox someone here personally, if you want to get your comment in, feel free. Tedra, what's your thoughts?
Again, it's just the craziness of these guidelines that they keep coming up with. Okay, there's been a complaint from business owners that, kids are loitering and they're fighting and hanging around. But if a coach and the kids both tell you they're waiting for a bus and you tell them to disperse, where's the bus supposed to pick them up at? I mean, let's use a little bit of common sense here in life, man. That's just ridiculous. Sometimes I just look at how things are done and go,
what
basically,
the hell?
what the hell?
No,
what the hell? What the other?
What the other?
Yeah, what the other? What the other? That's why. What you think?
Yeah, I'm with her. Really, what were they supposed to do? How were they supposed to catch their bus? He said they were blocking.
They were blocking the flow of traffic for the, quote, pedestrian traffic while standing on a public sidewalk, preventing free passage of citizens walking by and attempting to enter and exit a store.
So I'm guessing they're not citizens, and the sidewalk is not as wide as 3 people.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they don't get to use the same public sidewalk as everybody else, Tony.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will say, and I'm probably going to get some flack for this, and it's okay. I don't agree with them being arrested. I don't feel like you need to arrest kids for being on the sidewalk. But I don't care if you're a child, adult, whomever. If you see people trying to walk through, I don't think that you need to be blocking the way. That annoys me. I'm serious. Like, I hate to see, if you see people coming, I think that you, just like on the road, you drive on the right side of the road. When you're walking, if you're in a hallway, or you're at the mall, I hate when people do it at the mall. Stay on your side. You're on the sidewalk, you know that people are coming through there. If it's in front of a store especially, I think it's just rude. I think it's rude to stand there when people are trying to get through and you're in the way.
Big Ro, what do you think, man?
Some people just don't got enough to do with their life. or time. You're arresting kids for basically doing almost nothing. Yeah, I'm a cop that has nothing else better to do. Go find some crime.
Here's a theme that I've found throughout the stories that we've told, and we've had varying levels of agreements and disagreements here. But the reality is, as I see it, is that there's not a lot of common sense being applied to a lot of these situations. You know, we can sit here and we can talk about how it's the law. You can't sell, what is it, LSD through the mail, obviously. But common sense doesn't apply to this person spending the rest of their life in jail no more than common sense applies to these 3 boys waiting for the yellow school bus and being on the sidewalk and getting arrested for it. Common sense doesn't apply to the police pulling out their gun to an unarmed person instead of their taser. You have a taser, which I have issues with tasers in some instances as well, but a taser, for the most part, isn't going to kill a 250-pound man, but a gun will. So, when we talk about common sense being applied, I don't always want to attack the police because they already have a hard enough job. But, if Big Rube can take the standpoint that if you do the crime, you do the time, and I don't have no sympathy for you. If you chose the job as police officer and you do something stupid, then I don't have no sympathy for you. That's just the way I feel about it. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. We're going to take another break, and when we come back, we are going to get into the round table. Yeah. Your man Big Rube is going to take us in a circle around the room in his questions. I don't know what they are, which sometimes that makes me scared. Yeah. That's my brother, my partner, and my friend, so I know he's going to hold us all down. We got SY singing, we got Tedrick giggling, we got Tony making faces, and Big Rube being Big Rube. You know how stepping with Marcus J. Be back in a minute. Do what I want.
Tired of wearing that same old raggedy t-shirt to group events, civic, and work situations? Then why don't you check out our folks, Live Action Captions. They offer t-shirt services here in the Richmond and Tri-City area, offering multi